Hey, what's going on, guys? I decided to let's try that over again. What's going on, guys? I decided to try to do something a little bit different. I've got a different camera to use instead of just using my phone to record on. So I figured I'd give the camera, it's a Lumix G7, I figured I'd give that a shot and see how that comes out. So far pretty good. It's actually recording in 4K, so we'll see exactly how that plays out. But I want to give you guys a quick update as to where I am in terms of the data center stuff. So I figured this is kind of the vlogger style behind the scenes updates, because it's really helpful to keep me on target, because I've actually done a lot more studying over the past 48 to 72 hours than I normally would have. So it's actually really good for me. So a quick update for you guys. I did test out VLANs and trunking on the Nexus 7K. The titanium image that you could get from Viral, the 7.3 image, I believe is what it was. I tried that out. If you take a single 7K and you connect a couple of routers to it or whatever, and so get some devices that actually can be an endpoint that you can apply an IP address to, create a new VLAN, for example VLAN 10, and then apply it to those two ports that those two routers connect to. You can get pings to work in between those two, right? Work great. However, when I came time to do the connectivity where I had to go between two 7Ks with a trunk link and then going across to another switch, another 7K running VLAN 10 with another device plugged into it on that port, pings just wouldn't work. The trunk would show that I'd get these STP disputes and things like that, and I was just like, I played around with it for probably, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes, and I'm like, looked at the documentation, and the layer to the classical Ethernet that the 7K does is very similar to the way the Catalyst does stuff. Let me go ahead and put the camera down onto a platform. You can actually see the topology in the background that I'm working on. So I'll keep that in the lower right hand corner of the screen. So I went ahead and actually, let me do this. This might actually work out. Actually, dude, the lighting is going in here. It's crazy. Let me do this. Hey, that's better. So I went ahead and I was like, you know what? I looked it up, couldn't get it to work the way that I wanted it to. So I figured, you know what? No harm, no foul. Let's just move on. So that's pretty much what I did. So I moved over to Fabricpath. That was like, I did that testing last night, kind of late. So I went ahead and I switched over to Fabricpath. Fabricpath is something I've always wanted to dive into just to get a better understanding of what's going on. And it's kind of cool, actually. It replaces spanning tree protocol in the network. So in the event that you've got a situation where you've got lots of connectivity between all of your switches and you don't want to run, or you can run, or you want to run port channels between them, and that's really the only way to utilize multiple links between switches that are running VLANs and trunking to prevent loops, is to run spanning tree protocol, right? The problem with spanning tree protocol is it blocks ports, right? So old school technology, been around since the dawn of time when it comes to networking. Not a very good protocol to use in a situation like that, especially in the data center. So, pardon me. I went ahead and I said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that. I deployed Fabricpath. And Fabricpath actually has a number of things you have to configure. You have to install a feature set, turn the feature set on, turn the feature on. There's a number of initial things you have to do in order to get it to work. And then after you get it to work, you have to then configure it on all the ports. So it actually replaces your connectivity between your switches. Instead of those being .1Q trunks, they're now Fabricpath enabled connections, right? So instead of using .1Q tagging to send the traffic back and forth across the connections or the trunk links between the switches, they're now Fabricpath encapsulated. So Fabricpath, for those of you that know about it, is a Cisco proprietary encapsulation mechanism, kind of like ISL for back in the day. Well, all of that is cool and all, and I was like, well, I mean, it's not exactly on the exam, but it's like, I'd hate for them to come out with a corner case question and ask about Fabricpath. So I was like, you know what? I'm better off knowing about it than not knowing about it, so I feel like I'm not much better off if I know it. So I went ahead and I tested that out, and as I was going, I did Fabricpath, and I was reading up on some of the frame headers and stuff like that. It's actually pretty cool stuff, but I can see why it didn't take off, because it is Cisco proprietary. You normally wouldn't run it. It's just, there's other better ways of doing things. For example, VXLAN is a great way to go because now VXLAN is open standard. Anybody can run it. So pretty cool stuff there. So that's pretty much what I did and how I proceeded. So I've already started moving forward. I'm looking at I've already done a little bit of VPC, right? I've already played around with that just a little bit, but I want to spend more time on it. So I've gotten a basic VPC up and running where we do a single VLAN going over the port channel and setting up the peer keep alive and the peer link, and it's actually pretty cool stuff. I want to do some content on it, so I've been spending quite a bit of time on the core data center specific technologies that come with the 7K and stuff like that. So it's actually pretty cool stuff. Actually gets me really pumped up to go through that stuff and play around with it. With that, once that stuff is done, so once I'm done with Fabricpath and I knock out VPC, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through all like the little bells and whistles of VPC. It's more or less going to be like do VPC, do the back-to-back VPC. I've actually already done VPC where you're doing HSRP on the two head-end switches. So it would be your the switches that you're running the peer link on and the peer keep alive. I've already demoed that, so or I should say I've already tested it out. I know it works. I just need to go through and take the next step and actually go through and do like back-to-back VPC and test that type of stuff out. And then there's, since I have Fabricpath running, I want to turn VPC on as well to do what they call VPC Plus, where you have VPC between the access and the distribution layer, and then you're running Fabricpath between the distribution and the core layer. That'll be pretty cool. So I'm going to be testing that out as well to see how that plays out. Beyond that, I did check to see the 7Ks that I'm running support VXLAN and the NV overlay and the feature, what was the other feature command? I'd have to go look actually. One second while I pull this up real quick. The feature, I've got it over here on the computer. So if I look on 7K1, no, 7K5. So on feature VNI, that was it. So feature VNI, feature VN segment VLAN based, and feature NV overlay. All of those features are supported on the image that I'm running. So I figured, you know what, that's probably a good idea to play around with that to see exactly how it works and stuff like that. So that's probably what I'm going to do, but I'm going to wait for VXLAN to do that until I've had a chance to do finish up Fabricpath, do VPC with it, and stuff like that, so we can go forward in those areas. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there's the one cool thing about it is it gives you the ability of playing around with these technologies and understanding them. The verification stuff, it's not really there yet. Like the conversational Mac learning that you would normally see, I'm not seeing that a whole lot. So it's like, well, is it actually working? I really don't know. But the point being is, when you're playing around with these technologies, it's not necessarily to, obviously it's to learn. There's no doubt about that. But in addition to learning, it's also about, configuring it and all that type of stuff. So I want to understand this stuff from the ground up and make sure that I understand it the way that it's supposed to be learned and go from there. So that's pretty much it for this update. I'm going to go ahead and probably wrap it up for the night. It's getting kind of late. I'm going to get some sleep, and I will catch you guys in the next video. If you haven't already done so, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll keep you guys informed until the next video. Until next time, guys, take it easy.